Hello. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, First of all, I want to thank the organization of this center for inviting me to talk. Second of all, I want to thank you for coming. And third of all, I am not such a, I'm not a ustaz, or I am not a, I normally don't give speeches or anything, so what I'm going to do is just share a little bit about our situation in Spain and how things are in Spain, and so it's going to be more a sharing than any teaching. So I'm no one to teach you anything. So first of all, my name is Muhsin. My surname is Sierra Iglesias. Funny enough, I'm a second generation of a Spanish Muslim. My parents became Muslim in the 80s. So funny, my surname is Iglesias, which means church in Spanish. In Spanish, Iglesia is church. So it's a funny name because my name is Muhsin, which is a Muslim name, obviously, but my surname is church. I cannot change that, there is nothing I can do. So there is very little people today. Last time was a bit more crowded. Next time I will ask the organizers to put on the posters that I'm going to talk about football a little bit, Spanish football. So most probably we'll have more people coming. So basically, I'm second generation of a Spanish Muslim. I was born in Spain, in Granada, city of Granada. My parents became Muslim in the 80s. Those days, you could say that there were no Muslims in Spain whatsoever. Yeah, very few. I mean, it was a non-Muslim country at all. Although in other countries in Europe, you had a lot of immigrants and already people knew about Muslims. In Spain was basically none. So that was 40 years ago. Now, nowadays, we have around 2 million Muslims in Spain. Half of them, or at least 60%, are immigrants from Morocco or descendants or sons of people from Morocco and Muslim countries, or Pakistan as well. But there is a big amount of reverts or converts, like my parents, like me. I was born Muslim. So you have to see that Europe and Spain, the Islam is growing very fast, and this is because different facts. One of them is immigration, of course. A lot of Moroccans, a lot of Algerians, Turkish, from all over the Muslim countries, around the Muslim countries, but also because a lot of people are becoming Muslim. That could be quite strange nowadays with all the media saying such bad things about the Islam, but it's true that Allah has different ways to do dawah. No? One of them is you say many times that the Muslims are very bad, so suddenly the people start to read about the Muslims, and they find out that Muslims are actually it's a very interesting thing to learn about if you are not a Muslim. So that way you might end up taking a Quran, buying a translation of the Quran, reading it, and becoming Muslim. We have a mosque. We built a mosque 13 years ago in Granada, and we have, let's say, at least twice or thrice a month shahadas, people becoming Muslim in the mosque. The same in Seville. We have a musalla there, and there are a lot of people becoming Muslim. What I mean with this is, if we go back in history, what was Spain before? As you all know, you know better even the Spanish people, that Spain was a Muslim country. Those days it wasn't actually Spain, it was called Al-Andalus, and it was a very big, let's call it, it was a caliphate. So it was North Morocco, Algeria, and Spain. So let's say Spain was Muslim. Spain was taken by the Muslims on the 711, and the Muslims were there for 800 years. So basically, let's say now it's been non-Muslim for 500 years. So Muslims were there longer than the non-Muslims right now. Meaning, if the earth has some, reminds a little bit, if the land reminds a little bit of something, they have more memory of Islam than they have from Catholicism right now. So it was Muslim for a long time. In the 1492, the last Muslims were expelled from Spain, and after that, it came a very difficult to explain history time. The Catholics were very tough on people. Spain was basically Catholic for the last 500 years. But funny enough, nowadays, if you go to Spain and you ask the people, they will tell you, yes, I'm Catholic. But they will tell you also, but I don't practice Catholicism. I am Catholic because I was baptized, but I don't really practice Catholicism or anything. The churches are empty. There are many churches which used to be mosques before, but now they are empty. And the situation right now is people are learning what is Islam, especially the society in Spain. If you look at the history books in Spain, when you go to school, they give you a history book. So it will be like, I don't know, 500 pages. And then from Al-Andalus history, there will be like 1.5 pages saying the Muslims were for 800 years in Spain and they were reconquered and no more. That's very funny because if the people would know what the heritage of Islam is in Western society, they wouldn't be talking about Muslims in the way they are talking. Meaning that I was just reading recently something, so I got a screenshot of the article, the introduction. Is a woman. She works in a newspaper in Spain, very famous lady, reporter. She's actually from Catalonia. I'm very sure you've heard about the news of Catalonia many times now. What is going on? But this woman is from Barcelona, and she writes something that it became quite viral. So I'm gonna just translate a bit what this lady wrote, which is is actually very important for. I think I'm gonna just do that. Hello. Okay. So I'm just going to translate what this woman wrote, which went quite viral because she's a very famous writer in Spain. So she basically said, the influence of Islam in the Occident. Most of Europeans, they have not valued enough the importance and what Islam brought to Europe. The nature of what happened in the past. Some of them, they even don't know how are related to Muslims. It's very strange to see Europeans considering themselves, when I say Europeans, I mean all of them. And we could even say the States. So America, USA, the same. So, and it's very strange to see Europeans considering themselves that they inherit the knowledge of Hellenic, meaning from the Greek. You know, the Greeks were very famous because they wrote a lot of philosophy, a lot of things about medicine. And in Europe, they say their culture, their way of the philosophy comes from the Greeks. But this woman is saying that they feel themselves that the heritage is from the Greeks, but they don't understand that they got the knowledge because the Muslims came from all the way from Middle East to Spain, and they were crossing all these lands, Greece, all north of Africa, And they brought all the knowledge. Not only that, they study all the knowledge of it. They translate it in languages that European people could understand. And the knowledge they have nowadays in terms of everything, I mean, if you start to read about it, you will see that simple things like the way we eat nowadays, we use ceramic for plates, we use glasses to drink, we use forks, even the way we dress, so using winter clothes and summer clothes and, you know, small things like that, they come from the Muslims, from the Andalusian culture. So, going back to Spain, people doesn't know that 30% of Spanish language comes from Arabic. I mean, I could name thousands of words which are very similar to Arabic, like oil, we say aceite. Olive, we say aceituna, aceitun. Watini was aceitun. Aceitun in Spanish is aceituna. The mayor of a city is alcalde, which is come from alcadi. I mean, I could go like this for a very long time. But even look at small things. Have you ever heard about bullfighting? Do you know when the bullfighter is on the bullfight arena and he does a good move and everyone say ole? Ole is wallah. It comes from wallah. Wallah, like people get surprised. Wallah, what a surprise. Hello, hola, we say hola, yallah. We say maybe is ojalá. So these people, even when people get surprised in Spain when something shocks you, you say Allah. So Allah, they are every day using the name of Allah and they don't know. Every day. Even the national hymno, how you say that? You know, the official music of Real Madrid says Allah Madrid, Allah Madrid. You know, and they are using the name of Allah continuously, and they don't know where it's come from. So this is another thing. The language we use they're using Arabic, 30% of Arabic, although the people don't want to recognize. So there are people writing now saying Spain should recognize Arabic as part of the legacy of Spanish culture. Not only that, in the same time the Muslims were expelled in the 1492, it was the same moment when Christopher Columbus went to discover, well, the big lie of Christopher Columbus discovering America. Obviously is a lie because a lot of people went to America before him, Muslims especially, you know, and Vikings, and so he didn't discover anything, but okay. At the same time is when the Spanish start to go to South America. So let's say now South America, they speak 30% of Arabic. They use same expressions, ojalá, they use the name of Allah continuously. So then going back to the heritage of the Muslims in Spain. In Europe, for instance, mathematics, the zero was invented by the Muslims. Agriculture, they taught the Europeans how to cultivate. Medicine, the first surgery was done by Muslims in Isfahan and in Cordoba. The first cataract surgery was done in Cordoba 800 years ago. So the Europeans were living in the dark ages. I mean, people die at the age of 30 years old, 35 years old, and just crossing a little border in Spain, and people were dying at the age of 80, 90, 100, like today. So all this culture, all this heritage is very much in Spain, of course, because it was Muslim before. And there are also things like siesta. Siesta is a Spanish word for a nap after lunch. We have when Malaysians come to Spain, they ask me, Brother Muhsin, what time you have lunch here? and I tell them, in Spain we have a very similar way of doing it like in the Arab countries. We normally have lunch like at 2:30, which is at the time of Duhur. And after lunch we have a nap, but most of Spain have a nap after lunch, and then after Asr you go out again. Meaning that the people have a schedule that it has to do with prayers times in Spain, although they don't pray, but they still going home, eat at home, have a nap after Dhuhr, after lunch, and then after Asr go out again. So they live in a very Islamic way in some sense. Also, the courtesy of people when they are in the street. You know, Europe is a place where people are very, very respectful to each other in terms of they allow you to go in first. If you have a trolley when you're driving, people are very respectful when you are driving. But all of this also comes from the Muslims, because the Muslims before used to be the ones that were very respectful to each other. Actually, the first constitution or the human rights comes also from the Muslims. Actually, the first letter of a human rights was from the Prophet ﷺ, one of his last khutbah in the mountain of Arafah. And that was a constitution that was applied in Spain until 500 years ago. People use that as a constitution. People have the rights over the women, the rights of the men, of the parents, of the sons. So, going back to nowadays, it's funny when you are Muslim and you live in Spain, when people comes to you and they ask you, what a strange thing, how can you be a Muslim? The answer is always the same, no, what a strange thing that you don't know anything about Muslims, when this country was a Muslim land for a very long time. Nowadays it's not, but at least people should study about it, because 30% of the culture comes from the Muslim, from the language. And if we talk about science, I mean, I don't know the percentage, but it can be like higher, even higher than 30%. It's funny nowadays with all these troubles we are having. You know, there was recently a terrorist attack in Barcelona. And after that we had this segregation or separate, Catalonians want to get independent. So it's a funny situation now in Spain, no? The people that consider themselves very Spanish, like right-wing, now they are saying, we want Muslims and Catalonians out of Spain, which is a very strange thing. And they even tell me, you know, people telling me in the street, when I go, we are Muslims walking around, maybe some women of hijab, and they tell you, hey, why don't you go back to your country? What? I mean, which one is my country? Where should I go back? Yeah, to your country is there in, I'm a Spanish, you know, there is nowhere I can go, this is my country. They don't understand that Islam is not a nationality, you know. Actually in Spain, when they say Muslims, normally in a rude way, not in the newspapers, on the news obviously, no, but in the street, people in the street, they don't say Muslim, they say Moors. Moors means, it's a very hypocritical way of speaking. Moors means, in Arabic means dark, you know, the dark people. It's funny when most of the Spanish want to go in the coast to get dark, you know, tan, but they call Moors the Muslims, you know. So the situation is very complicated nowadays in Spain, in Europe, in the Western countries. So there is a big media against Muslims. But the good thing is a lot of people are realizing about it. I'm thinking like, come on, 20 years ago the communists were so bad we should attack them and kill them all. Now are the Muslims. What is going to be the next evil thing? But so there is a lot of questions that people ask, and people are getting very interested about Islam, and that is good for us. So there is never bad publicity. Publicity is always, whether it's good or bad, is good, because people are realizing that it's a very the largest religion in the world is Islam. There is not any other religion in the world that is growing so much as Islam, and especially in the Western countries. Like 40 years ago in Spain, you hardly see any Muslim. I mean, hardly. I mean, my father tells me that he didn't know until he was 35 years old. He didn't know what a Muslim was. He didn't know. The first time he heard from a Muslim, there was people that had become Muslim a few years back, and they came to him. I am a Muslim. We became Muslim, and he asked, "Muslim? What is that? What is? You know how amazing how." The machine of kufr, how can work for people to forget about something that they had in their line for such a long time. So I ask myself, people in Granada where I live, where they have the Alhambra, if some of you have been there or might heard about it, in Granada we have this big castle in the middle which is huge. I mean, it's a Islamic castle. Is what people 100 years ago should think about that castle. Who were the people who construct that castle? They don't even ask. So who were these Muslims that could build such a big fortress? So nowadays, obviously, everything is changing, especially by media and by social media and by all these means, that they can be a tool to hurt Islam, which is actually hurting Islam, but at the same time is helping people to get to know Islam a bit better. As I said, we are growing very rapidly. We built a mosque in Granada. We are trying to build another one now in Seville with the support of many countries, Muslim countries around the world. And there is a very tough work that we have to do, because if you are born in a country where Islam is not established, one of your duties is to establish the deen. Although nowadays it can sound a bit strange. No, I want to establish the deen. I want to establish Islam in Spain. And it might sound like, oh, what are you going to do? But it's not really that. It doesn't mean that everyone has to become Muslim, but at least you have to give a good image of Muslims. So this brings me to another perspective. I come very often to Malaysia, and here most of the people, well, not most, but it's a large number of Muslim, majority is Muslim. And I can see that when people are grown up in a non-Muslim country, in a Muslim country, people take the deen for granted. So imagine my situation. I was born as a Muslim. When I was, at least until I wasn't 10, 12 years old, I didn't really know. I knew that I was different from my classmates. You know, I was a Muslim. They all had names like Raúl, Carlos, Ramon, and my name was Muhsin. So I knew that I was different, obviously, no? But I didn't really know what Islam meant. So as I was growing, you imagine, a whole school of around 500 boys and girls, and we were 5 Muslims in the whole of the school, so 0.1%. So you ask yourself, what have I done wrong or good to be a Muslim out of all these people? And this is a question that you ask yourself so many times when you are continuously surrounded by non-Muslims. So imagine when I was 12, 13 years old and Ramadan came, and your father tells you, okay, now you eat a little bit, we pray, and then you go to school, but you don't eat in the whole day. And you ask yourself, okay, I have to do it, right? So you go to your class, and suddenly the break comes, and you go outside, and everyone is eating, and you're looking at everyone eating, and you ask yourself again, what have I done good or wrong to be in this situation, right? So this is continuously. As you grow up, you understand that there is a gift given to you, out of so many people, because when I was, imagine in the 90s, I cannot think that there were in Spain more than 500,000 Muslims. I mean, I don't think so. So 0.1%, and I was one of them. So in the moment that I got conscious that I had a gift, that it was Islam, is in that moment when you realize and you thank Allah so many times for giving you this gift, that I still nowadays, sometimes when you cannot sleep at night and you think, oh, how can I be Muslim out of so many people? You know, you don't know this, the feeling, but the feeling is very impressive. So how Allah chose me to be Muslim out of so many people, and all your actions, all the things you do, you want to prove yourself and prove the rest of the people that there is something special on you, why Allah has chosen you. Because you need to prove yourself and prove the people that is something different. Because if not, what's the meaning out of it, you know? So now I'm now a bit older, so I've traveled a lot. I've performed Hajj already. So now there are a lot of more Muslims in Spain. Obviously, my wife is a Muslim, my parents, my baby. So now it's more normal to me. I'm a Muslim, okay, so it's nothing. But I come now to a non-Muslim country, Muslim country, and I can see what's the difference between the youngsters and when I was a young in Spain. You don't ask yourself why I'm a Muslim. You take it for granted. You're born in a Muslim country, but you have to realize that it's still the same gift is given to you that is given to me, because you could have born anywhere else, just across the sea in Thailand or across the sea in Philippines, and you wouldn't be a Muslim. So, and you have to do things accordingly. I've been chosen to be a Muslim. Although you are surrounded by Muslims, you have to do things because you have to prove yourself that the gift that is given to you is very important, and you have to take care of it. So it's very interesting to travel to countries like Spain, to see how things are, you know, because people in Spain, in Europe, people, as I say, this morning I was in a radio and was talking about it, like people in Europe, they behave very well, you know, they have this thing of natural courtesy and respect for each other. You go into a bus and everyone is lined up, no one is stuck in, everyone waits until everyone goes out. You go to a lift, elevator, and people goes in, goes out. People driving, they wouldn't bother you. If you are using one lane, they wouldn't make you stop. All these things. But all these things are only outwardly actions. Inside, they don't have faith on Allah anymore. So they are empty. Outside, very nice, but inside, empty. So here, inside, full, but the outside have to be much more improved. And I'm not saying when you go to a mosque, because obviously when you go to a mosque, you obviously, you know, you behave well, you know. But I'm talking outside. You have to be an example for the non-Muslims. The same as happened to me in Spain. You know, when I was 16 years old, I hung out, I do lepa with my friends, and they asked me, why are you a Muslim? So boring, man. You don't drink, you don't go out with girls, what a boring life. And I told them, no, I'm special. You are not special. You know, you cannot be a Muslim, I'm sorry. So they kind of freak out a little bit, you know. So I come back here to this. So for you, you still have to prove that you are special. So what I mean is very interesting when you travel around and you go to places where there are very little Muslims. We have to show the non-Muslims in Spain that we are better than they are, meaning that we are more respectful than they are, that we behave better than them, that we are full inside and full outside, that that we are different because we are special, we've been chosen. And it's actually the truth. You've been chosen, I've been chosen, all of us have been chosen to be Muslim. Imagine what a disgrace if we would not be Muslims, you know. So what I really highly recommend you is, of course, I own a travel agency, so I recommend you to come to Spain. But at the same time, see how a community of Muslims, in my community in Granada, for example, we have to be very strong in order to survive, because it's very easy to people to get disappear on the non-Muslim life. I'm not going to say kafir because it's a very hard word, no, but non-Muslim life. So you have to maintain yourself very strong. You have to teach your people, your sons, and you have to keep strong as a community. You have to give good advice to each other, and I highly recommend to see how that works. Is very hard. So the same situation should happen here. No, people should, because it happens the same everywhere. It's not only in a non-Muslim country. In a Muslim country, people can also start to relax, and this is actually what happened to Al-Andalus. Al-Andalus was taken over by the non-Muslims because people, there was a point where they relaxed. They say, yes, we are Muslim. It's our culture. No, sorry. Islam is not a culture. Your culture is a completely different thing. My parent became Muslim, but his culture is Spanish. It's not. He doesn't have any Islamic culture. It doesn't exist, Islamic culture. You are a Muslim, and your culture will be, if you are from Malaysia, your culture, if you are from Uzbekistan, is a different thing, no? But it's not a cultural thing. It's actually a thing that you have to have a strong niyyah to be a good Muslim. And so in the end, you learn a lot from another Muslims from overseas. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you. It's already very late. I know it's already nearly 10 o'clock. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I hope we have the chance in another time to talk again. If anyone have any questions, you can just ask me. And I invite you all to come to Spain if anyone hasn't been there. And I will try myself to be your tour guide, or at least I will find someone that is a Muslim and have knowledge enough to teach you about Spain. And that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.